Awesome. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, I just want to ask you to just coming off that panel just now where we talked about the newness of cauliflower and sriracha over the time and pickleball coming in as the new normal. What are the things that excite you the most about AI in education? And you could start dropping those in the chat. We're going to um, start formally in a little while, but we wanted to invite you into this conversation.
Thank you, Flo, for kicking us off.
Mhm.
And Welcome, everyone. Of course, you can't have a panel like this without having technology, especially if you involve a 19th century historian. If it doesn't involve a telegram, I'm a little bit out of my league. I admit it freely. But again, thank you, everyone, for taking time out of your busy schedules to come to another wonderful event. I mean, Top Kid is always just amazing. So, a big shout out to our organizers for doing this. And thank you again for joining us as well. So, I want to take a moment to introduce myself and our panel and give a big shout out to the one that organized this for us, which is Dr. Flo Williams with the Center for Distributed Learning. She is the guru of all these things, so I must give her a specific shout out because she's the one that's orchestrated this for us. I'm Patty Farless. I'm with the Department of History. I've had the good fortune of working at UCF. I got to notice that apparently it's my 25-year anniversary, but I will tell you it's probably more like 35 years because they don't count everything, but that's okay. Um, it wasn't the 19th century that I came here, only the 20th century. So I also want to introduce the rest of our panel, Dr. Joe Smith with the Center for Distributed Learning, also Dr. Karen Haslet with undergraduate studies, and Dr. Katia Ferdowsi, who's not able to join us but has put together an amazing presentation, and she's coming from the College of Health Sciences. So, how this began is I've had also the great fortune of working with the Faculty Center for Teaching and Learning for a couple of years now. And I had some book groups that I worked on. And one is the most recent, as I've pulled the book out to look through it again, is Teaching with AI. And so this panel came as a result of that book group, where a bunch of us came together to talk about and think about how can we integrate AI within our classrooms, within our departments, within, of course, the institutions more broadly. And again, I will stress to you, I'm not always the most technologically savvy. That said, I do recognize the importance of having our students ready to meet the changes and demands of the 21st century. And I thought it was interesting that Patsy Moskal had put up in the last session, one of the things we're struggling with the most is how do we keep up? AI is here, AI has been here. And if you're
Mhm.
someone like me who's just getting started, I'm pretty far behind the pitch. But with groups like this and with organizations and conferences like this, I think most of us can at least start to feel our way through to help our students take the lead, because at the end of the day, that will be what's going to happen. Our students will be the ones taking the lead because they are the future. So even as a historian, I have to think to myself, how can I help students of history also integrate and use AI? So I'll talk about that a little bit more later. But right now, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to my colleagues who are going to continue our presentation and our conversation. And please feel free to post questions and thoughts and suggestions, and we'll do our best to keep up with the chat as well. Yeah, it is a gushing fire hydrant or a geyser. I don't know which we'd want to say. So, Flo, take it from there,
Thank
my
you,
friend.
thank you so much, Patty. And Joe Smith is right now driving the slide deck for us. So we're just going to show quickly our agenda on the screen
Sure.
to show you where we are in this process. So where we're gonna go for the day.
It is being thorny.
Yes, it is being thorny. I don't know if we lost Joe, but right. So we are going to be exploring the key concepts in AI in education, and you will see me looking up over my camera because I am in one of those rooms that have a large screen in front of me, and it is a little taller than I am, and my laptop is today. We want you to join us in sharing some of the practical implementations and strategies and also applications of AI that you're seeing. I'm seeing some ideas already in the chat, but we are going to go now to our Padlet. So if you are able to scan the Padlet, the QR code that will come up now on your screen, and Joe is going, if Joe has put the link in the chat for those of you who are on PC and would prefer to see the ideas across, we are going to be discussing AI in teaching. And we're looking at what the benefits are, the roses, the, the potential, the buds, and the challenges, the thorns. So if you are on or Padlet, or if you cannot navigate to the next to another application, you feel free to drop your answers also in the chat. When you're writing in the Padlet, you will also be asked to identify what it is that you are talking about. Is it a bud in your eyes? Is it a thorn? Is it a rose? Because some things that I consider to be a thorn for me could be a bud or a rose for somebody else. So as you write the ideas down, what are the benefits that you are already seeing in your work? What are the potential buds that you are seeing? And what are the challenges? And as we wait on you to work through this, I want to say thanks to Joe Smith and Canva, who made our rosebuds and thorns for our presentation today. All right. So Joe, if you can navigate over to the Padlet, let's see what's happening on it. Um, I normally give my teacher wait time, but I also ask that you go ahead and write in the chat. And we have some resources for you. So this is our Padlet Garden, Answer Garden. And AI seems to have a promising future, is a rose. There is room for AI in my practice. Based on its current use, Gen AI might um, and what's that word? I can't read it very well. Let me see if I can expand my screen here. AI might provide dynamic adaptation, and a thorn is that AI literacy is important. So those are the things that are there for now, along with those things that were added to the chat already. So remember to write on the Padlet, you just tap on the plus sign and then you can go ahead and identify what you are thinking, what's happening in your practice. AI open pedagogy is very important for an information literacy, GPT, and efficiencies in AI practice. All of those are roses. AI is not going anywhere. Yes, somebody said you can't put the toothpaste back into the tube. So we have to try to keep pace with its progress. And I don't think we're going back to that place where we had tooth jars and you would have a powder in the jar and you stuck your brush in it because that's not very hygienic. So they tried to keep us healthy by putting toothpaste into a tube, the possibilities to help with grading and feedback. And some of these things that you're adding on the Padlet, some of them will come up in more detail in the presentation. But we just wanted to give you an opportunity to engage with us because that is what a conversation is about, the call and response of it, the idea that you can work with somebody else, you can learn something that you would not have known if you didn't get the chance. So we are going to go back to the presentation, but just know that this Padlet is going to be in the resources for you. And we have also curated a list of AI tools and strategies that we are trying to give you as a takeaway. So you will have that opportunity to work with that, to add to it, and to go through the processes. If you are new at using AI, if there's something that you have not used before, we want to be able to share that with you as we go through this talk. Over to you, Joe.
Thank you, Flo and Patty, for introducing the presentation. So I kind of come at this from two different directions. I am an instructional designer and I also teach. So I'm looking at these tools or products as really what they are, um, whether they're going to work in my class, but also whether I'm going to use them as an instructional designer to help support faculty or to even acclimate faculty to some of these tools to help them have a greater impact on student learning, more efficiency for them, anything that we can do in the CDL as instructional designers to support faculty, we want to do that. So some of the tools that I'm going to introduce are the most common tools. There are so many tools and new tools coming out every day. It's very difficult to keep up, but the ones that I know I've really found great to use are those large language model uh, tools that are Claude, Copilot, Gemini, which is Google. Copilot is Microsoft, and I think you've heard it mentioned that UCF has a license for Microsoft Copilot for our students to use. ChatGPT, and then Grammarly and Canva are just tools, other additional tools. But as an instructional designer, I find that I have used these large language models for brainstorming. Uh, I definitely guide the discussion. You know, I'm going to have it built around the learning outcomes for the course. I'm going to want to use that backward design where I have these objectives I want students to come out of the course with. So how can I get there through a semester, or how many weeks that I need to go through? That's something else when you have to take a 14-week or 16-week course and make it into a 7-week course. These tools are great. They kind of help you brainstorm on that. How can I chunk this up in a different way to really still meet all those criteria that students need to learn and know how to do by the end of the semester? It's great for outlines, course outlines, or presentation outlines that you might have. If you need to really look at your student learning outcomes, if you're using the word understand and you're stuck, it's a great tool to rewrite that learning outcome so that it's actually measurable. And then, of course, I like to use it because I am not a coder. I don't know HTML, but I'll be in Canvas is the tool that the LMS tool we use here, which is HTML code. I can't get something to work for me, so I can turn it into HTML code, copying it into ChatGPT and say, can you revise the coding to make it do this, this, and this? And it does a great job. And I just copy it and paste it in, and voila, it's fixed. Also, for scripts, like video scripts, I really like it for video scripts because you want to caption all your video scripts or have a transcript. So I usually will ask it to draft a video script for me if I'm going to do a lecture or something. Usually my videos will not go over 7 to 8 minutes. So it also helps me compact my videos. And if it's too long, how can I split this up into 2 videos? I've used it. I'm very big on authentic assessments. So I will brainstorm with what's an authentic assessment that I can use with these graduate students who have these learning outcomes, because again, I want whatever assignment's going to align with those outcomes. I give it that. I use it for rubrics. Rubrics are great. It gives me ways to measure. And rubrics is also creating more transparency, giving the students clear expectations of how you're going to grade that assignment and what you're expecting from it. And I think it does a pretty good job with rubrics. Um, Feedback, I don't use it often for feedback. But if I have a student and it's the end of the, late at night and they did not follow instructions, I can see the effort isn't there and I'm very frustrated and I'm writing the feedback and I look at it and I go, it's a little too rough. I think I'm going to let ChatGPT make this more constructive to the student, and it will rewrite that feedback for me in a way that's better for the student and helps the student. So I've used it that way for feedback. In test questions, I like to build test banks. So I'll ask it to come up, I'll come up with some learning outcomes, give it some information and say, I want 3 different kinds of test questions and open it, short response, maybe an essay question. And it's great for that. So these are all good things. I do want to say we came off of that presentation before us, and I thought it was great, the comments that were made in that. But if you're going to use AI, make sure you talk to your students about it openly. Make sure they have an understanding of the shortcomings and issues with AI. Give them some practice. Give them the expectations when they cannot use it. Um, so it's just really important that you understand the bias, the ethical issues, all those things for students, and give them that information before you use it in a course. So I think that's everything I was going to talk about. Flo, I think I'm going to hand it back to you.
Thank you, JoAnn. And with the use of all of those tools that Joe talked about, some of the ways that I have been using AI in education for my work and that I consider to be a rose is that I have been able to optimize the tone and content and also the structure of my communication. Full disclosure, I came from a British education system where we use use where Americans don't, and we use these and things like that. We use S's where you use these and stuff. So when I started teaching in the US and working with teachers in the US, I realized that I couldn't spell the words the way that was expected. So I started using Grammarly to help me for that. And when I started using Grammarly, I didn't consider it to be a generative AI. It was just something that I was using to help. So for my document editing, Grammarly was a good go-to. And now I can continue to use all of those applications and tools for supporting myself and my faculty as I work with them. Another thing that I have been finding very useful is um, for using AI for research. So one of the things that I have seen is that when you use an AI, and I don't mean just like ChatGPT and Grammarly and those ones, if you are thinking of using AI for research, you need to go to the assistants like Elicit and Scholastic and Research Rabbit, which were created for research. They are able to do rapid information synthesis. And I have found like myself and a colleague, we were doing a systematic review for an article we were writing, and we were able to use both illicit and scholarly to find the, t- the 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 literature that we wanted to look at, and in minutes those AIs were able to find some resources. Because we have been trying to do responsible use of AI, we did a cross check with Crossref, we did a cross check with Google Scholar, we did a cross check within our own library. And those are some of the things that are important to remember, that when the AI generates, whether it was created for as a large language model to help you write, and or whether it was created to help you to engage with research, it is not a shortcut for your own effort. It is not a shortcut for your creativity. It is just there to help you. It These research ones, they will help you to generate outlines, to summarize, to identify concepts, how concepts work together, And as Matt said, illicit help the makes the lit review so much easier. I wish it was around when I was doing my doctoral work because my lit review alone took months to just do. And possibly I still did not do as well as I could have done today. So I'm going to pass you over to Patty at this time so that she can talk about how she has been working with AI in her practice.
So, again, thank you, Flo, and everyone for coming. So, um, the challenge I've had, and I admit very freely, I'm not the most digitally literate individual, but I teach fully online and have been teaching fully online for quite some time. And I'll go one step further in the humanities. The online courses, the online programs are what's keeping our lights on in many ways. So we have to think about the importance of having a good and robust online program, especially if you're in these types of disciplines that are challenged in terms of enrollment. But the other part of it is I'm a writing discipline. We write, we write a lot. We expect our students to write. So how do we deal with those thorny issues of plagiarism? Of having a student just turn in work that is generated by AI. And I would say that that is probably one of the most central challenges for me as a teacher and what I teach. That said, in reading the book Teaching with AI, conversations with my colleagues like Flo and others, and working through this and thinking through this and thinking through the ethical obligations I have as a teacher to prepare my students for the 21st century, where AI is very much a part of their world and will be even more so as they finish up. How do I start introducing this to my students? As Flo put, openness and intentionality. I see this as an opportunity in many ways. One is to have them think about their ethics, have conversations about struggle for myself as a middle-aged woman who's trying to learn all these areas that I really don't want to learn. I like hanging out in dusty old books, you know? Um, but having those conversations about the importance of it, having the conversations about how do we treat this ethically? How do we hold each other accountable? How do we create a community of civic obligation within the classroom? And one of the things we do is we go back to like a John Locke and we start to build what are our expectations. And part of that is going to be having students talk to you openly about this, talk to you in their own way about what are their concerns and their challenges. Second of all, so one is I see opportunity to get them engaged and agent and have their be their have agency for understanding what are those ethical boundaries and where should they go, holding each other accountable. Two, I would say, is what we ultimately want students to do. And if I could take 1 second, Flo, to take a quick side trip. One of the things our students do is a service learning project, and they have to do. A lot of them work within the Smithsonian Transcription Project, and they always talk about, oh my gosh, they had to learn how to read cursive, right? And I always tell them, you think that's hard? You should have had to learn how to write cursive. And I said, but if you're going to do historical research, anything pre-email, you'll need to know how to read cursive. Not even typewriter. It's got to be email. That's anything before email, you have to know how to read cursive to be able to do that type of archival research. And so we don't write in cursive anymore. We don't use it really anymore because of where we're at. It's gone. It's not coming back, right? And so having them understand that some skills and having my colleagues understand some of these skills, some of this knowledge is gone and it's not coming back and it's okay. So what new skills? What new ideas can we come? And if at the end of the day we want our students to understand how to think critically, right? AI is one of the most important ways they can do, because AI requires them to think about it in an iterative way. They could start by having AI generate a rough draft, sure. But if they submit that rough draft, it's not going to be very good. And I think most of us can spot it from a mile away. And it will get better, and I do know this. So, are we going to open the door like Stoddard in the 17th century and allow everybody in and allow all AI in and say it's okay to use AI? But you must challenge it, you must question it, and you must be transparent about how you're using it and learn how to use it and use it effectively. And so I see that as a way to take on this issue of cheating and plagiarism, both in using a way to talk about civic responsibility, but also using it as a way of teaching them to that writing itself is iterative, using AI as their peer for review, right? They can go back and forth for some time as if they were having a peer reviewing their work and so on and so on. So I think there's ways we can bring it into these disciplines and make it make sense. But we have to be, as Flo noted, intentional about that. And so that would be one of the other thing I would say is getting them to think and be critical in their thinking is where AI creates the opportunity. And even in writing disciplines, where we don't want them just relying on it, but we want them interrogating what that writing is. Flo, I think I used up my 5 minutes and I'm notorious for going well over. So I will pass it back to you, my friend. And hopefully I only went 20 minutes over.
Okay, just 25, but that's okay. So, Katia is in a class right now, but she did us the honor of still sharing her work. So we have a quick cameo that we're going to share with you from what she wanted to say if she were able to join us in person today.
Hello everyone. Sorry I couldn't join you live. I'm recording my presentation at the UCF Faculty Multimedia Center on the role of AI in medicine and its application in the classroom for medical and pre-med students. As a physician myself who teach this group of students through undergraduate pathophysiology courses, I'm excited to share my insights. First, let me talk about AI in medicine in general, and then I will discuss its application in our classroom. AI in medicine is a game changer. It enhances diagnostics. AI detects the pattern in clinical records and imaging data for early disease detection. AI tailors treatments based on genetic information, medical history, and lifestyle. AI forecasts patients' outcome and identifies health risks for early intervention. AI streamlines the scheduling, billing, and record management, so freeing up for time for patient care. And AI speeds up drug discovery by analyzing data to find potential candidates and predict their effectiveness. And finally, AI chatbots and virtual assistants provide consultation and improve healthcare access, especially in remote areas. We can use AI in our classroom, and actually, AI is transforming medical education in several ways. These innovative tools make learning more engaging, efficient, and preparing students for actually tech-driven future in medicine. Tools like Osmosis, Ada, ChatGPT, Labster, Coursera, and Khan Academy are really useful. Personally, as a supplement to my lectures, I sometimes upload videos related to my lecture topics from Osmosis and Khan Academy, which are really comprehensive learning platform. While AI has many benefits, as I explained it, in medicine and the classroom, there are, of course, several cons to consider. First of all, data privacy. The integration of AI in healthcare involves handling large amount of sensitive patient data. So, raising concern about privacy and potential breaches. AI are not always accurate. There is a risk that AI may misinterpret data and potentially leading to misdiagnosis. AI in healthcare raises ethical questions about machine involvement in life and death decision. AI, of course, can be expensive, potentially creating disparities in care quality for a smaller facility. And AI can inherit biases from training data, leading to biased decision affecting certain patients group. And finally, just dependency on AI diagnostic may undermine the judgment of the experienced healthcare practitioners. But these challenges highlight the need for careful consideration and regulation when integrating AI into educational practice. By considering these approaches that I'm going to show you, the future of AI in healthcare and medicine is really, really bright. If we combine AI diagnostics with human oversight to ensure accuracy, if we emphasize the importance of human judgment and experience in healthcare, and foster a collaborative environment where AI is used as a tool to support, not replace human decision making, definitely AI can have promising development on the other horizon. So thank you so much for your attention.
So we thank Katia for doing that for us. And we wanted to just highlight that last point that she made, that AI should be used collaboratively, collaboratively. We should not just rely on it, but our experiences, our understanding of the fields in which we engage, or understanding of the classroom in which we teach, or understanding of the spaces in which we work should be used to conform and strategize with our use of AI. We now have Karen, who is going to share from the student and teacher perspective of how AI is used in her practice.
Hey, hi. I'm going to discuss how UCF's Integrative General Studies program, which I'm a lecturer, has overcome a couple of challenges, or we could say thorns, to help our seniors in our senior seminar class become more AI savvy before they enter the workforce. And one challenge that we noticed in recent years is that AI is already transforming the hiring process. So many employers use AI to review applications, meaning that resumes that aren't optimized risk being overlooked. So to help students stay competitive, we've transformed we have a professional portfolio assignment that has students create resumes or cover letters or do a elevator pitch and so forth. And we now allow them to use AI tools when crafting those resumes or cover letters or elevator pitches. And this helps teach students how to leverage AI effectively in these real world applications. Another challenge is that not all students are equally tech savvy. We have a wide range of diverse students with different backgrounds, some coming out of retirement to finish their degree with us. So to bridge this gap, we've created a mini AI module within one of our modules that has an AI playground assignment. And this gives students a chance to experiment with AI and gain hands-on experience. So through this, students learn to interact with AI, understanding its capabilities, and then applying it ethically and responsibly. So those are just a couple of thorns or challenges that we've tried to develop buds to help address. All right, so then shifting gears to, let me share a few benefits or roses, we could call them, of how AI can support teaching. And some of these have been mentioned earlier, but AI can be used to assist students in their capstone research projects by acting as a brainstorming tool to help them generate ideas and refine their topics. I often tell students when I meet with them towards the beginning of the semester, these are our senior seminar students, that I can't be an expert in every field that my students want to research, but AI has access to a wealth of information. And so I encourage students to ask AI, like, what are the top 10 issues or concerns facing your field today? And then that can spark meaningful project ideas which hopefully they can then choose or modify and kind of take it from there. Another way that we have used it is AI enables more timely feedback by quickly verifying sources and identifying inaccuracies in students' works cited pages. And so I have them turn that in prior to their final product, so that make sure they're on the right path in writing their literature review. And I used to be able to just glance at it and see if they had things that looked like peer-reviewed journal articles and that such. Now it's kind of a double-edged sword that with AI can sometimes, as most of you have probably discovered, can hallucinate sources that mismatch authors with names of articles, with journals that it's like a mix and match game. So now, kind of using AI back on itself, you can use AI to try to weed out which of those are hallucinations and which aren't, and then help students get more authentic and accurate sources. And finally, AI can offer more detailed personalized feedback. Again, referring back to that portfolio assignment, the professional portfolio assignment with the resume and cover letter. When I have over 100 students, it was hard to give exact detailed feedback on all those resumes and such, but now we have tools such as VMock. UCF recently subscribed to that. If you're familiar with it, it helps provide tailored insights on resumes, cover letters, elevator pitches, different documents. It can give very specific feedback in which students can then take that to strengthen their work with those specific suggestions. So by integrating AI into our teaching, we're equipping students with valuable real world skills and giving them a competitive edge.
So thank you so much for that, Karen. Patty has a very thought-provoking question in the chat. How do we make students have equal access and expectations to AI tools? And that is something that we can't control, because even if the institution pays for something, a student might have something else that they are able to pay for over another student who does not. So what we can do is that we can help to make students as literate as possible. We can teach them about fluency, and we can teach them about the risk. But at the end of the day, our social justice position must be that in our practice, in our class, you know, back in the day when I was going to university and I was doing my undergrad, the teacher would provide a list of resources that she wanted us to look at for a particular assignment. We might be able to do things like that to help the students come together on the ground floor of AI use, but we might not be able to take care of all the issues, but we can start. So I would like us to, as we close out the session today, I would like us to think about what you have heard, what have we learned together? How are we collaborating? What's our relationship with each other as practitioners? How am I helping you? How are you helping me? How does my success help you to be successful? So JoAnn is going to take us through some of the key takeaways, and we might be able to go back to the Padlet because there are so many good ideas and some memes on it that helping us to see how people are feeling and how we think we are doing today.
All right, we've got some great posts on here and some really creative little gifts in there. But I was looking at the roses, the buds, and the thorns, and for the roses, you can see efficiency, you can see brainstorming, being able to provide feedback and maybe rapid prototyping when you have to re do a course, maybe your timeline changes, or for coding. For the buds, I saw a mention of, students. I like the one with the little kid, reading, they're, also in that creation process and learning about those tools. It's an opportunity. It's a budding opportunity for students. Let me see what else we got here. Possibly help grading feedback and room for to create more dynamic, adaptive curriculum adjustments. Of course, the rows, again, we're talking about promising practices, maybe personalizing learning paths more easily. Just some really good comments here. This one is now they gonna have to change all their curriculum. That's a thorn.
Love that.
I think all of us have relooked at our courses and our assignments if we teach as in the light of AI. So there's a lot of things that I think we talked about. Each group where Flo was talking about the tools. We running out of time. We're getting close.
But I think the next, is there another lift coming up or no?
I think this is.
Oh, it was that one. Okay, sure. I saw her yellow house. Yeah, this nigga's on our ass. Yeah, you
So,
see, yeah.
collaborative insights, I think,
He is like on our ass, Carol.
Erica, your mic was open. I don't know. I don't think you were always talking to us, but I guess that's okay. So Joe, if you could just wrap, I think we have a couple of minutes for that.
Okay, I'm going to go back to the last slide, and we're going to wrap it up. Okay. So again, we learned about some practical strategies and some ways that we can enhance our teaching and the students' learning with AI. We talked about collaborative insights, how you can use it to overcome some challenges, and looking and working with students together, collaborating with them. And there are definitely going to be more future opportunities to merge AI. There's going to be new tools. There's going to be other work. There's so many things going on right now, creating bots and things like that that can help students with tutoring and getting information more quickly and directly. And again, there is a document, a Google document that is out there, and you'll have access to it, I think, through the conference website or tool. And if you want to look at those tools, I put a table in there that has like these different tools and kind of what their uses are, and then some very brief prompts that you could use to create things with those tools, and then some just information about the tools in general, like if there's a subscription, is it a free, is it? So you might want to access that resource. Okay, that's it for, I think, our presentation. Flo, do you have any, or anyone else have any comments they'd like to make?
Just to say thank you to the team for coming together, putting this together with us. And for those of you who are here in the audience and who have been chatting back at us, it is not a presentation unless you are here, and it is not a conversation unless you exchange thoughts with us. So let's continue to talk and work together. And um, the Hoover app is very good for connections. So if you want to talk with us some more, you can just hit us up and send a message there. Thank you so much, Sue, for hosting us today. And thank you, everybody, for being with us. We are really excited to where we can go with AI in education and how we can work together to improve and become excellent at what we do.
Thank you all so much for your time and information. It was, I get to host these, but it's just so wonderful to have such fantastic sessions to host because it's just been great. I've been plugging away at trying to pay attention and take notes and look at chat. It's just been super exciting. So thank you so much, all four of you. The virtual was very cool. It just embedded seamlessly. That was wonderful. Thank you for that. We are going into a break. So I will share. So as you can see, we will have a break from now until 3 o'clock. At 3 o'clock, we will have our lightning sessions. Again, those will be a little bit faster. So there'll be 2 presenters in each room with 25 minutes each. So again, we're going to go ahead and give a break till 3, and then we will come back and we will have both Matthew and Nicole in here with 2 presentations to share with you. So again, 10-minute break. We will see you soon. Thank you again.
Hey, Sue. So thanks for making me co-host.
I'm sorry, Matthew. I'm talking to you and I'm muted the whole time. My apologies.
It's fine.
You are very welcome. It's so nice to see you in here. Is there anything that I can do to help you prepare? Or is there anything you'd like me to do as a role during your presentation? Please let me know.
Not really. Just stop me if I go too long.
Okay.
Don't
okay.
hesitate. Don't hesitate because I'm kind of I'm gonna try to put a timer on. But my presentation is gonna be very free form, and
Okay.
I could go for basically probably like 3 hours with what I have. So it's kind of I'm gonna have to plow through and try to figure out which path I'm gonna follow. But in any way, you'll see when it happens.
Okay. And I have been going, doing just a private chat to those people and kind of giving a 5-minute reminder. So I can do that for you too, if you think that would help.
Yep.
All right. Welcome, Nicole. So wonderful to have both presenters here. I was just telling Matthew, if there's anything I can do right now to help you prep, let me know. If there's anything you'd like me to do to help facilitate while you're presenting, we have Matthew down in the first session from 3 to 3:25, and then you from 3:25 until 3:50.
Sounds good. Really, the big thing was just if you could hear me okay.
You look great. You sound great.
Thank you. Because I snuck into Wendy's office. So I'm like, oh, this is a completely different setup. I got to make sure everything's working.
Ain't that the truth?
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we've got about 8 minutes. So if you need a chance to take a break as well, please do so. But I'm going to go ahead. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We have about 1 minute before 3 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and start our recording. So this is our last group of sessions for today, and we will have another day of Top Kit Workshop tomorrow. But these are our lightning sessions, so we will have 2 presenters in room A, and then 2 presenters in room B and C as well. Please remember that if you need to go to room B or C, you can jump back into WUVA, and under the scheduler agenda, you should have a direct link to those rooms. but I am happy to be the facilitator in room A. So you are here. Today we are going to start with Matthew, and he's going to be talking to us about some talking points and activities for improving faculty AI literacy. Definitely something I am going to enjoy being a student in. And then we also have Blazing the Trail, a repository of AI-infused strategies. And Nicole, I'm so excited to have you here as well. I know about it. I've clicked on it. I've been in it, but I haven't had as much time as I would like to. So I'm so excited for both of you to be here today, selfishly for myself, but also for all the other wonderful attendees that I've been letting into our room in the past few minutes. But however, with that being said, I will go ahead and Matthew, I will turn it over to you. Thank you so much for being with us today.
All right. Yep. Okay. So I've done something a little different for this presentation because I was kind of I wasn't sure exactly where I was going with this in terms of what I wanted to share, and I was like, I want to just build something that's going to map out my brain about what the whole topic, and then I'm going to just walk through it in a way that makes sense. So what I've done is, if you look at the chat, you'll see that there's a link to my Miro board that should be available. So this is something you can explore on your own later. But basically, I'm just going to guide you through this monster that I created in the last week. So just to give you a like bird's eye view of what it looks like, I'm not going to address everything, but I wanted to kind of show like what's in my brain right now when it comes to these questions. So the first thing is I'm going to start my timer so that I don't go over. So first of all, who am I? My name is Mathieu Plourde. You can call me Matt. I have some information on how you connect. You can connect with me on social media and everything. I work for the Faculté des Sciences de l'Administration, a Faculty of Business Administration at Université Laval in Quebec City. And yes, we do speak French. So I'm going to start with like the main issue, and this is something that a couple of weeks ago we had an AI boot camp with a bunch of our instructional designers on campus that was organized by a faculty member in the College of Education. And one of the things that came out of the actual event was that we all felt like we were stuck between needing to act really fast and needing to be very thoughtful, and that's like basically having your foot on one foot on the brake and one foot on the gas. And it's like, so we're trying to figure out how we're going to work with this. So I'm going to start with the left side, which is short term. What are the two things that we should look at? We should look at academic integrity on the one hand, and innovation in teaching and learning on the other. So so the whole idea of I'll start with academic integrity because that's kind of the elephant in the room, right? um, Academic integrity, when it comes to AI, it's definitely one of the drivers in terms of what faculty members are asking about. They're like, well, my assignments don't mean anything anymore because the students can just complete them with just a chat GPT, just one prompt or whatever. So now what do we do about this? What are some of the things that we can do? And I would say the first thing that I do when I work with faculty, and we've done a couple of training sessions within departments at the College of Business. In the last year, we met all the departments, and we're going to do a second round this year with more like hands-on workshops and that kind of stuff. But the first thing is really the idea of the risk analysis. So when we look at a course, we need to look at the assignments, and we need to figure out which assignments are at risk and which ones are not. So this is in French. Sorry about that. But basically, the idea that assessment activities are going to be more at risk if they are summative, if they're worth a lot of points, if they're done remotely instead of in class, if there's surveillance, uh, if there's no surveillance, they're going to be more risky. If you give students more time to complete them, it's going to be more risky. And if they can be answered with very generic stuff, if it's in Bloom's basement, basically, chances are that's going to be easy to answer. So the whole idea, so I just go through this process with faculty members when they ask me about this. And one of the other things that I do is just basically make them aware of the syllabus policy, because we do have at the College of Business, we decided in the template for the syllabus that we would put a notice that says that AI tools are forbidden unless the instructor has made it clear that they want it to be used in certain ways. So I want our faculty members to be aware that this policy is there. And then how do you actually now that you have this, we're not just doing a blanket statement on the use of AI for every class, we're actually doing it at the assessment level. And one of the things that about these steps is that every step of the assignment could benefit from using AI or not. So it's not just a blanket statement about the assignment. It's really, if your assignment has an ideation phase, if it's got a discovery phase, it's got an analysis phase, are you allowing students to use the AI tools at that step, and why would you allow it or forbid it? So you really have to come up with a justification on why you're going to do this. So just to show you, this is not something that we've made available yet, but basically these are the steps that I go through with my faculty members when I meet with them. So the first thing is I do an inventory of what their assignments are, figure out if they're at risk or not, what modality they're using. And then afterwards, now out of this, they're going to come up with some recommendation in terms of how do we reduce the risk of cheating with AI. And then I help them with just coming up with what are the suggestions or justifications that we're going to use for each one of these steps. And then afterwards, you write your actual instructions, and then you can just copy and paste that table inside your assignment, so that students know exactly what to expect when it comes to these assignments. So the other thing is there is also a good example from Tori Trust, who's an instructor at the UMass Amherst, that is great here. So you can explore that stuff on your own. Our student government came out with some kind of a white paper on what they want the university to do in terms of AI, and basically they say it loud and clear that they want us to come up with required syllabus policy for every one of the courses at the university level, but also to encourage faculty members to be very clear on the instructions when it comes to that stuff. So exactly like we were talking about yesterday, like the UCF survey. So students are afraid of getting into trouble for doing something that they didn't know they couldn't do. So this is definitely something that comes out loud and clear from this report as well. Now, if I go a little bit further, there was this post from Liu that was about the idea of the assessment of learning and the assessment for learning. So if you haven't read that one, this one is very great because it basically says, it talks about the two-lane approach. So assured assessment of learning versus assessment as learning. Where basically, as if you can't observe the student doing something, then you can't know that you can't assume that assessment is valid or not. Like you can't assume that. So you have to really have that in mind every time that there's no way around it at this point. Give me a second. So you can explore that as well. So basically that brings the idea of assessment of learning on one side and assessment for learning on the other side. So this one is really the idea that you're going to leverage summative and formative assignments to prepare learners. In those cases, you're going to allow the students to use whatever toolbox they would have access to, especially if it's related to preparing the student for their workforce. I put the showcase from FIU in the diagram. So if you guys haven't gotten the URL yet, I thought that you guys did a really good job, Michael, and all these folks at the FIU. So shout out to that. But basically the whole idea is also when you do assessment for learning, you also have to kind of reduce the incentives to cheat. And one of the ways to do that is to reduce, for instance, the summative value of these assignments and say, we're going to do this as if it was a formative assessment. And then, so let me go back to the top here where we talk about the assessment of learning. When it comes to assessment of learning, there's definitely an issue with for instance, if we really want to make sure that we validate the identity of the student who's taking an assignment, that they're not using tools or other people or that kind of stuff, you really have to control the environment. And we don't really have like good computer labs when students can do computerized testing. So, so basically we're back to doing face-to-face assignments or, in-class exams and that kind of stuff. But there's also like you could do oral exams, you could do like presentations online, that kind of stuff. So there's other ways that you can kind of know that you're actually talking to the right students and that they're displaying if they've reached a competency or not. And then in those cases, you reduce the opportunities to cheat. But the other thing that's really important is the idea that it needs to be enforced. So you need to come up with ways that you're going to have people at the university who are going to enforce those rules. If there's something because if you don't, then you're going to have reputational damage to your brand, and you're reducing the value of the degree of your institution. So one of the things that our institution and our college has done is that we recommend systematically for faculty members who have a doubt that a student has cheated with AI to just denounce them. And there's some staff actually that works in our vice provost office that would do the work of collecting all the evidence and building the case around these things. So even if we can't ultimately prove that these students have cheated with AI, the process makes it so that if there's enough proof or enough evidence that points towards, or there's a probability that the student has cheated, they would have a consequence. So you really have to make sure that you can enforce these rules. And sometimes it is very hard to actually prove, but that's one thing that we try to do as much as possible. And of course, AI detection is not something that we recommend and that actually works. And there's resources that you can look for that as well. So now let me go back to, I was supposed to talk about AI literacy. So one of the things that when it comes to academic integrity, we want to raise awareness about academic integrity and raise awareness about literacy. I really like this model from Stanford that basically says that AI literacy is functional. So understanding how AI works, what an LLM is, what's the idea with tokens and that kind of stuff. On an ethical point of view, rhetorical is just basically prompt engineering. How do you actually get the results that you're looking for with these tools? Pedagogical, how do you use it for teaching and learning? And it's always like basically the overarching thing is the human-centered values. So why are we engaging with AI? And is there anything else that we could use really? And we always have to think about literacy in terms of a continuum. So I'm not expecting all my faculty members in my college to become experts or fluent in AI. I want them to be literate, or if they were stimulated, I want them to become novice. So I want to move the needle, and little by little, eventually they'll get to the level that we want them to be at. But it's going to take some time because we still want them to be experts in their discipline. We don't want everybody to be an AI expert. We have a couple of people who are going to be AI experts, but we want other people to actually be literate. We don't need them to become experts or fluent. Sorry. There's a couple of other, frameworks that you want to look at. I'm going to go to another part of the diagram. So if we look at innovation in teaching and learning, the very first thing that we can say is that let's focus on the solutions that are deployed at the enterprise level. So right now, the two solutions we have are Copilot and Elicit. So those are the two that we have institutional licenses for. So we do encourage faculty members and students to use these tools as much as they want, because those are covered under the enterprise licenses that protect the institution and protect the data. But definitely, when you look at the barriers when it comes to adopting some of these tools, there's a bunch of things that we have to look at. Carbon footprint, ethical dilemma, intellectual property. That's the big one. How do you find data sources that you have access to, that you have like the permission to use? And usually it's going to be content that faculty members have developed themselves. It's going to be something that, or it's going to be OER, or it's going to be a couple of different things of that nature. So of course, there's all these barriers and all these things. Of course, being Canadian, we do favor Canadian hosting, Canadian tools, that kind of stuff. So we're going back to like basically away from SaaS and more on-prem deployment. And then if I go back to innovation, we experiment prudently with other tools. So this is like, for instance, the Coggle that I use. It's basically every time that I find an AI tool, I add it to this mind map. So this is just like what I know about. Doesn't mean that I tried them all, but if you want to explore, this is a good place to start. We give some seed money to our faculty members using to actually try stuff with AI. And then afterwards, that information is shared back to the community, of course. We do have a community of practice of instructional designers on campus that talk about AI as well. So communities of practice are great for that stuff because you can really identify the stakeholders and have these conversations that are related to everything. All of this basically, if you look at the future state where you want to be later, you want to re-engineer teaching and learning and assessment of learning. So you want to have a good governance and vetting process. All of this, everything you've done so far feeds into this, and then, but it doesn't change the idea that you do have some issues that are more structural, like for instance, that your university is underfunded, that your classes are too big, that grades and learning are basically can of worms. If you try to get rid of the grades, you might be able to actually get rid of cheating. And then just a couple of more things. We do have just some guidelines that were developed for teaching and learning that I invite you to look at. But basically, we want to get our future state, and where we want to get is operationalizing these 5 principles, which are primacy of human relationship, openness, exploration, and training, prudence and informed use, integrity and transparency, and collective intelligence and collaboration. So that would be my 15-minute presentation at this point, but I'm open for questions. I know that it's been it's a whirlwind, but basically I did exactly the opposite of what Angela said yesterday. Angela said, I don't want to give people homework. I want to give them resources. This is homework for you guys to explore this. So I'm sorry, but you can do it on your own time, and take whatever time you want. But yeah, I wanted to really just express how the complexity, and basically there's so much that's out of the scope of the instructional designer in there. So anyway, so questions or comments?
Matthew, you are good with time. We will start the next one at 3:25, so you have a
Yep.
good few minutes for Q&A.
Yep, absolutely.
I will let you know in the chat, not only myself, but several people have thanked you for your resources, and you've been contributing in other sessions as well, some great resources. So I will just announce a big thank you for all that you've been sharing during the workshop.
And I'll come off of mute as well, Matt, to say thank you. Thank you so much for being a partner in TopKit and for taking the time to create this resource and sharing it with us. I see that you have a CC license, so those of us who will be using it, and you notice I say those, I said those of us, not just those, will be able to create the right attribution as we share further. And I wish you all the best as you continue to create this infrastructure, this ecosystem of care that you have created for your faculty. It reminds me of what Michael Wright said last year, giving faculty a soft place to land. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, that's a great, it's always one of those things where I really want, every time that I have an interaction with a faculty member, I always try to put myself in their shoes and say, am I like just giving them more work, or giving them like I'm basically just doing some kind of a raising awareness about something and giving them no option to move forward? Because that's one of the things that I don't want to just add to the anxiety of faculty members. I always want to make sure that I come up with a solution. And there's usually one small step that we can take. And I'd rather have like just take one small step. Like for instance, I had a discussion with a faculty member who was teaching it's basically a graduate class to learn how to write research papers in MIS. And one of the things that she noticed is that the students were in that class, they needed to actually submit a paper and do an oral presentation in that class. And the only thing that we actually did to her class is that we flipped the point value of the paper versus the presentation. So it's the idea that like her paper was like 40% of the final grade and the presentation was 10. She flipped it around and said, now it's going to be 10 for the paper because I know that the paper can be written with AI, heavily assisted with AI, but the presentation is going to be 40% now. And you really need to be able to know what you're talking about, and you need everything that you say in your paper needs to be aligned with what you're going to be presenting to me. So even if you were heavily assisted to write your paper, you need to understand what's in there and you need to own it. And just these little adjustments, sometimes just changing the value of the different assignments within your class can make all the difference in the world in making sure that you have a class that's actually that's more robust and that's protected against the bad value that AI can bring, basically the avoidance of work that students could have. Any part of the map that you want to explore more, or a concept, or is this something you're just going to do on your own? Anyway, it was a lightning talk, so.
And you said this is something that you will share out with us, correct?
Oh, it's already shared. Well, the link is already in the. It's on Whova and it's it's in the chat. Yeah.
Great.
So you can. I'll copy the link again for people who have joined.
Yeah, we do have a few that are coming and going kind of through the room, so I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't mind pasting that again.
Yeah.
We do still have a couple minutes left if we have any questions or feedback or comments for Matthew.
Don't be shy.
Yeah.
Come on. There's got to be something in there that, piques your attention.
All right, I'm here. Hello, Matthew. It's wonderful to see you. And
JoAnn was my student too. She was my colleague and student.
Both, at University of Delaware. Shout out. So I just wanted to thank you for this incredible resource, but also to ask a question because I noticed it yesterday when you shared your principles website with us.
Yep.
And the first principle, primacy of human relationships, is something that just resonates, I think, probably with all of us as instructional designers, because we always get the layers of technology and we have to be well versed in that and how to apply it. But can you speak to this and what this means to you in your application of AI?
Okay. Well, when it comes to the application of AI, is that like if we're not making human connections at the university, what are we doing really? We're not one of these universities that people come in and do like correspondence courses. If we want to be different, then we need to bring that back. We need to we can't just always design activities that are going to be self-paced, that students are going to work with AI, are going to work with, independently. So that's one of the things that we always have to remember, is that if we, as a university, we are positioning ourselves as a university where where faculty members are accessible to the students, and the knowledge is accessible to the students. And, we're going to find a hybrid approach where students are going to use AI and, to enhance their learning experience. But we do not want to do that at the expense of connecting with other students and connecting with faculty members.
Thank you so much, Matthew, and thank you, attendees, for the great questions, feedback, input, all of that. We are going to go ahead and do our transition. So once again, Matthew, thank you for your time and expertise. It is a lightning session, and we just wish we had more time with all the presenters, but thank you again. We are going to turn it over to Nicole Stahl from the University of Central Florida.
you, Sue. Let me go ahead and share my screen, make sure everything is up and working. Share, get the chat on this side. Perfect. Okay, everything look good, everyone?
Yes, you look good, you sound good, and we see trail.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Matthew, for everything you shared in the spirit of sharing resources and the good work that everyone is doing with AI. That is kind of the theme of what Trail is. So it's kind of been a perfect segue for this lightning session for what we're going to talk about. But a little bit about myself, I am Nicole Stahl. I am a project coordinator with the Pegasus Innovation Lab, also known as the iLab, here at the University of Central Florida. I'm also the managing editor of Trail, along with my fellow editors, Amy Denoyles, who's an instructional designer, and Sarah Norris, who works with the UCF libraries. So Trail is the teaching repository for AI-infused learning. I cannot emphasize how Trail could come to be without the amazing Topper. If you have not heard of it, it really honestly was our blueprint to create Trail, because Trail was created in about 2 months. So without the work of Amy, Sue Bauer, and Shelley Wyatt, who are part of Topper, Trail might have taken a little bit longer to get off the ground and running. So that is another great resource. I put that link in the chat as well, in case if anyone is interested in checking that out. But so what is Trail? Trail is a openly licensed, peer-reviewed strategies that really what we want anyone within the higher education field, whether you're an instructional designer, a faculty member, a specialist librarian, what have you, we really want to let you be able to take any of these strategies and adopt them or adapt them immediately into your own courses. So many people are already creating assignments and strategies with AI, that what better way to share those out so that people aren't having to redo the same good work. So we kind of wanted to create this collection to be able to categorize all of that. We do have a couple categories here that I'll talk about in a minute, but that way people could easily kind of share what they're doing in case someone is completely new to AI, doesn't know how to start, wants something easy to go, or if they've been using AI, just want some new ideas. It's really just that collection to be able to share those great ideas. So as I'm going along here, we do have some helpful links on the left-hand side for our authors if anyone is interested about how to get started. I'm just kind of going to go through the website here real quickly to kind of just explain what Trail is. Like I said, the goal of this is to be a repository of assignments, rubrics, use cases, anything that you might think of. And as I said, Trail just started last year. It was our inaugural cycle. So this is still very much in its infancy. We're welcome to changes and suggestions, but we do have some examples here in case you're trying to think of what you might want to submit. We do have a cycle. You are the first to hear that our next one will be happening in June. So start thinking of ideas in case you want to submit for this upcoming cycle. Technically, you can submit at any time throughout the year, but that our official cycle will happen once a year. So that is coming. And I'll show it next. We do have some submission guidelines that I'll go over to next, and like what you need to curate. And then kind of the big thing with the use of AI. I know on Who I saw someone had a question about how you balance copyright and ethical concerns. I think copyright is one of the #1 questions that we're all still trying to answer. So for us, we're still trying to figure out a policy. It can adapt as need be. But we do believe in transparency in our submission entry. We do have like a text box that lets you answer if you did use AI to write your submission, what did you use and how, not in a penalizing manner, but more so just in a, how did you use this? What did you do? Kind of just to be transparent of what exactly you used. And so that there's no question of, did you use AI or not, since that's kind of on the backs of everyone's minds. Accessibility is also a huge thing with the STARS repository. STARS is what our library, UCF library, uses for these various collections. We're super grateful for them to partner with them on this. But yes, we do want to make sure that all entries and any artifacts that you include, like if you want to attach a rubric that goes along with your assignment, if you have PowerPoint slides because you want to showcase a presentation that you did about your AI strategy. Any attachments you might want to include, those are what we're calling artifacts. So we just want to make sure everything is accessible so that it is accessible to everyone. And then, like I said, this is, we do have a Creative Commons license on this since it is peer reviewed, and we are making sure that everyone is open and accessible so that anyone can adopt and adapt these strategies. And then, like I said, it's peer reviewed. We have on our website on the main page, if you're interested, we do have a link to volunteer to be a peer reviewer for Trail. You don't have to necessarily have experience on any of these categories, but it is certainly welcome. We might, if you say that you're really focused on editing, that's your main focus, we might reach out to you to review any strategy submitted on editing. Back to here. And then we also do have an editorial board who we kind of run everything by, make sure everything is kosher with them. I'm very grateful for our editorial board members, as well as our special acknowledgements. Like I said, we created Trail in about a couple months, so without these additional individuals, it would have been a very difficult process. So super grateful for everyone who is a part of Trail. And then, as I mentioned before, our submission guidelines. This is just a great way if you're trying to say, okay, I do want to submit to this. What do I need to do? Kind of like with every application nowadays, you just got to make an account first. But the great way with making an account is it kind of lets you be within the system so that it's a great kind of tracking way. So if you submit to other collections, you can kind of see your information and what have you. And then this is a kind of a brief summary of what is asked in the submission process. Your name, information, what have you, if you have any co-authors. And then, like I said, we have these 4 categories. We kind of broke it down into about kind of like the levels of how you're using AI. If it's just kind of like level 1, just kind of brainstorming, generating ideas. Then you kind of bump it up a little bit. You're using AI for editing, trying to help you improve the work. Then level 3, kind of adding some more AI into it, and then kind of full AI. You're using AI throughout the whole process for whatever strategy that you're working on. And then just kind of a description, some context about your institution, the modality, how you're using it in your course, so that we can just know, even if say you did this in your math course, maybe what you're doing could be applicable in a biology course. But this way we can know exactly how you used it, and then that's kind of the adopt and adapt process. But we do have the entry template here, so that way you can see it's a very short template. Let's see which screen it's gonna open up on. It is opening up on, of course, this screen. Here we go, over to this window. Like I said, it's a very short entry. It's only a few hundred words per section. I just realized it's probably really small. Zoom in on that a little bit more for you. Again, there we go. But yeah, it's a very short template. We just want these to be very digestible strategies that you can read. Not necessarily a 100-page journal article. And then this is where we have that acknowledgement of AI that I was mentioning earlier. And then again, this is just kind of more information about the artifacts, making sure that they're accessible. So you might be wondering, what all does that look like? So here's one of our example submissions. Actually, I will show this page first. So when you do go to submit, you can see where it has that same information of everything that we're asking for. If you have a discipline, that's one of the nice things with STARS. You can't search by discipline, and it'll pop up any related articles for that. Again, selecting your category. So everything that I kind of mentioned on that submissions guidelines page, it's just right here again, right here. But then you can kind of see everything that you'd entered there is then replicated on your entry once it's accepted. Like I said, when you create that account and you become an author, if there were any other submissions by Mary Ann, they would pop up here. Like she presented our Teaching and Learning with AI conference. So you can see where it pulled her other resources. So that's kind of a great system with stars that it does that for you. Again, it shows all of the information that you entered, that Creative Commons license, the links to those additional files, like she submitted a rubric, and then the actual entry itself, where everything that she submitted, that really short Word document, is all right there. And then another great thing with stars is it gives some great metrics. Like it immediately shows you that there were 14 downloads and number of views and what have you. So that is the kind of the great thing with stars. It kind of shows all of that data. And then on our website, you can, like I said, you can search by each of the categories. And then we also have them here as well. So we're super grateful that we got 10 submissions for our inaugural launch. I know it was a very quick turnaround process. We're really excited to see what more is coming out in the future. If you haven't heard, we do have a Teaching and Learning with AI conference. That's kind of where we are going to announce the next cycle and kind of keep that in the timeline. If you haven't heard about this conference, it's a great way for faculty, librarians, instructional designers to kind of talk more, continue the conversation with AI. And that might generate some ideas for creating your own strategy and submission that you might want to submit to Trail. If you ever want to learn more, we do have our mailing list. If you ever want to hear about the call for submissions, when new entries are posted to the website once the cycle has ended, we make sure to send everything out through that mailing list. So that is stars. Let me make sure, or that is Trail. I believe that is everything that I was going to share. Yes. Okay, so I will kind of pause there for questions if anyone has any. And I'll post the link in the chat again for anyone new. This Trail. I talk really fast. That's why I knew I was like, a lightning session is perfect because I can talk really fast, share all the good information, spread the good word. Thank you, Patty. Thank you, Martha.
Hey, opening it up again. Any other comments, questions for Nicole? I'll do a little. Oh, there you go, Matthew. Great.
Okay. Nicole, so could you show a couple of the submissions that you already have in there? I feel like I'd like to see a couple of them and get a sense of the scope of what you guys have collected so far.
Certainly. So here is the group of them. I think the one that I opened was Mary Ann's. That was kind of exploring business. This is one that was talking about creating rubrics. That was in an undergraduate course using Copilot and ChatGPT. This is an example of not necessarily providing any additional artifacts. And then let's see, we do have some, here's like a 3-step model of assignment analysis. If I go too fast, let me know. This one was, which category was that? Editing. So he had provided some like transcript documents with tutorial captions and what have you. I believe we had a submission from every category, if I'm correct. I could be wrong. Yeah, so we had about, that might be a little bit better. So we had about 4 in the ideation and structuring. We had 1 from editing. And 5 within the tax execution with human oversight. This one was about like workflows, career potential, cross-disciplinary. And then, okay, so no, we did not have one from the full integration and automation. So that might be one. You could be the first one who submits to that category.
Yeah, we're not there yet.
who will be the brave soul to submit to that category? Any other questions?
Do a little plug too. Topper and Trail are really nice opportunities if you maybe have a new hire that isn't necessarily a strong writer or not necessarily brave for putting it out there, maybe some of the peer-reviewed opportunities that we have. This is a really nice low stakes area for them to make some contributions, get a peer-reviewed experience. They're all very kind. It creates, like she's showing us some searchable artifacts for you. It also creates a profile for you. So once you're in stars, it links to anything, whether you contribute to Topper or here or any other place. So it's a really nice opportunity for some people who maybe are new, or maybe you have students who want the opportunity to get some publications. But I just wanted to put that out there that we've had some people come through, and it's been a great area to get them to kind of get their feet wet and get comfortable.
So for our reviewers, our peer reviewers, we had them completely from other institutions, no one on the editorial board. So you are welcome to okay, yeah, you are welcome to offer to be a peer reviewer. I think we had 3 reviewers per submission, so we wanted to kind of make it as open as possible. But yeah, we did have our reviewers. They were great in helping us kind of get the ball rolling, because I mean, I and my team, we don't necessarily know everything that there is to know about AI, so having that additional insight is great. So we greatly appreciate anyone who is willing to be a reviewer. And sometimes if you're a reviewer, that's kind of another great way to kind of get insight to see what people are submitting. And then that might give you an idea to submit for the future cycle.
Nicole, if you're a reviewer, is it almost like a rubric? You go through and make sure entries have certain elements. Can you go over that role a little bit?
Yeah, so we do have a reviewer guidelines page as
Oh, great.
well. And we also do, I don't think I opened it. Oh, because it's a document, that's why. So we do have the kind of the reviewer rubric on the website if you want to take a look at it. It's really short. Just kind of make sure that it meets all of those items, and they can give feedback so that if we need to have the author clarify something, or maybe they didn't make something accessible, or they forgot to provide an attachment, we can do all that. One thing that we did also want to make sure that we explain to the reviewers that we have on our website. I lost that one because I have so many tabs open now.
I'm impressed with your tab usage, Nicole. Very impressed.
Thank you. As I'm going along here, I'm just going to open a new one.
There you go.
There we go. We do ask that the reviewers don't submit the submission through any type of AI, like don't submit it to Copilot or Claude or what have you as you're doing your review, just because we don't want anything to get flagged or messed up. So if you're using AI, that's why we have that question there to say, how did you use it, so that it doesn't mess anything up. And then we do also have other collections as well that we'll link to, just in the spirit of transparency, because we know that there's other great institutions and networks that have their own collections, kind of like how Topper is its own collection. So any other AI ones, we are happy to share them on our website. So we have those linked there. And then Tara, I did see your question about how to sign up to be a reviewer. I will post that link in the chat. Sure. Nope, I don't think I missed anything else in the chat there. So I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen.
Thank you, Nicole. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and share mine. All right. So thank you again, Matthew and Nicole, so much for your lightning sessions. You are fast talkers, and thank goodness, because you had lots of goodies to share with us. I think you did a great job getting them in 25 minutes, so thank you. The chat and the sessions are being recorded, so those are something that we will be posting and you'll be able to go back to and review. But again, a quick thank you to both Matthew and Nicole for your time and resources. We do have about 5 minutes, and we will be kicking off a special session. So the days are usually ending around 4:30. So yesterday and tomorrow are 4 o'clock days, and today is our 4:30 day. And that is going to be a special session that we will be having from 3:50 until 4:30. And that session will be on open educational resources, OERs, with Emily Franklin. She's an instructional designer. However, like I said, we do have a few minutes before then. So I have put the day 2 slide up. We, as I have said, appreciate your time and feedback. So if you can go into our survey and give us some feedback on day 2, that is very much appreciated. Again, I will leave that up here. We do have 5 minutes, and then we will go into our next session, which, as I said, will be a special session from 3:50 to 4:30 with Emily Franklin, an instructional designer at the University of Central Florida. But in the few minutes we have before that kicks off, I will leave this survey slide up here, and I'll go ahead and give you an opportunity to enter that information. Hey, welcome everyone. Like I said, we're just in a little bit of a transition period. We are ending our lightning sessions and transitioning over to our special session, our last session for today. If you are not able to stay on till the end or have some feedback you want to drop in before you forget, you should see right now the URL and the QR code to give us some feedback for our day 2. We have another panel tomorrow. I think Matthew and a bunch of other people have said, don't forget, students are who we want to solicit feedback from at any opportunity we can. So I am happy to say we have a student panel tomorrow. So if you have questions, you may have an opportunity to solicit some feedback from some great students who are willing to participate in Top Kit Workshop 2025. Again, this code is up for you to submit that feedback. Otherwise, let's see. Emily, I know we're a couple minutes early. Are you okay with getting started?
I'll just go ahead and share my screen.
All righty.
I'll start there.
Okay.
You can see, oh, wait, no. Okay, you can see my screen, yeah? Good.
Yes.
It looks good, but I can see your whole browser. I don't know if that makes a difference, Emily.
No.
Okay.
Does
It's
it
good.
to anyone?
No.
Is that going to distract you?
Not me.
I think it's okay. Like when I'm in so I'm in presenter mode of Google Slides, and like that's how it's showing.
If you
I
try
don't
hitting
know.
F11, Matt recommended. I'm not sure if that
Okay.
actually works or not, actually.
Well, yeah, that's not working, but I might switch between tabs, so I don't know. I think it's okay. I don't have any sensitive info displayed there or anything.
Yeah, it's a great view, good font. You look good. We hear you well. So yeah, I think you're good. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you. So I did have a poll for this session, and I don't know if anyone saw it. It should, well, maybe because you guys are already in this room, because it should prompt you to submit the poll as you're entering this session from the agenda, but I don't know how Whova is really working in maybe you're not accessing it, but I can just kind of throw that in the chat.
Yeah, I'm not seeing one on my side, so it may be inside WOVA. I don't see it in the Zoom. So yeah, thank you for the link.
It is in Whova in the agenda. There's like next to the
Matthew
clicking.
has kindly grabbed it and given us a screen image. Thank you, Matthew.
Oh, thank you. I didn't know how to link to it, I guess, but Matthew, you are faster than I am at maneuvering that. So thanks. I don't know where that went either. So those are the questions. So Matthew shared a screenshot of Q&A. There is a poll, but I'm going to go ahead and just put it into the chat because I don't know how folks are seeing or not seeing in the platform. But first, thank you guys for sticking around for the end of the day. My name is Emily Franklin. It is 3:50, so I'm going to go ahead and start if the session moderator's ready for that. Yeah?
Yes, I am, and you're being recorded. Thanks, Emily.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Sue. So my name is Emily Franklin. I'm an instructional designer at UCF. And like I said, thank you for sticking around to the end of the day to join this discussion in 5 tips for supporting OER adoption. So I did, as I was saying kind of before the session started, had a poll that you guys might not have actually been able to see. So I'm going to, I just lost the chat. Okay, put it in the chat and just see how often do you discuss OER to help others incorporate it or to support it at your institutions, at your institution. So 1, regularly, 2, occasionally, 3, rarely, or 4, never, but I'd like to start. If you want to just put in the number, that's easier than typing out the full word. But during this session, I would like to share some tips, but also I hope that you will also share your insights and experiences so we can learn from each other and walk away with even more practical strategies to apply to the various types of work we do in relating to course design and OER. So I see some regular, like 1 regularly, a lot of occasionallys, 1 rarely, but hey, nobody's at never. So that's good. Oh, I spoke too soon. There's 1 person at never, but that's okay. So we might be discussing the how-tos of incorporating OER frequently or not very frequently, but we should be prepared for the discussion so that we can communicate what open means, what types of materials are open educational resources, right? So hopefully we can all be sharing ideas during this session today. So first, let's start with what are OER. So you all can probably answer this question, right? But what % of faculty or instructors do you think can answer? So in our pie chart of what are OER, do you think the majority of faculty and educators can answer this question, or do you think the majority cannot answer the question? So if you want to throw out your idea in the chat, do you think the majority know what OER or majority do not know? I see some nope and no's. So we're coming from the beginning at, hey, probably most folks, most faculty don't even know what OER are. So that's probably where we have to start then, right? So the folks who aren't with us here today, they might not be as much in the know as we are. I'm going to share some data with you about that, though. So this is the source of my data. So 64% of faculty knew about OER in 2023. So hey, that is the majority. So a little better than we might have thought. But sadly, down to 56% of faculty know about OER in 2024. So that's not good, a decrease. And according to this data, the most pronounced decrease in awareness was from newer part-time or in-person teaching faculty. But at least the majority are aware of OER, they know about it. So that's a good thing. But can we make sure that next year isn't another decrease, and instead we increase it back? So in the same, pie chart, how many faculty are using OER? So do you think the majority are using or the majority are not using OER in their courses? Oh, someone said 1%, maybe 1% of faculty are using OER. Does anyone else have a guess? Majority using, majority not using. We have a not using. Let's go with 10%. Well, the data reveals there were 29% of faculty using OER in a course in 2023, down to 26% using OER in a course in 2024. So we have 26% of faculty using, 74% of faculty not using OER. So our goal is, how can we get this 74% of faculty more on board? So we want to see that majority as the number using OER. So let's shift that 74% to the majority. So to start out, we may need, right, to increase that 56% of just in the know. So let's start with a quick defining features, just so we can all clearly articulate what we're talking about here, for those who aren't in the know, right? So we start with defining features of OER are openly licensed materials to use, adapt, share without major restrictions. So they have these 5 usage rights of reuse, retain copies, redistribute to anyone, remix with other materials to create something new, revise or adapt or edit the resource. Second, OER are accessible. So there's no cost for educators and students. They're available to everyone. They can address digital accessibility, so the material is accessible for a diverse audience. Third, they are customizable, as they can be modified or edited to suit your learners' needs and your audience, and can be adapted to diverse formats. And the final point here is equitable. So the use of OER helps break down barriers that often prevent learning, particularly from or for underrepresented and marginalized communities, because OER reduces or removes cost, and because they can incorporate inclusive images and language to represent those who often aren't included in commercial textbooks, and because they have a global reach, so no one is limited by proximity or anything like that. So OER not only reduces the financial burden, but also encourages diverse perspectives and democratizes education by making high quality learning available to everyone. So first, let's make this known to 100% of our faculty and educators. So just spreading awareness of OER. So now, after we get folks in the know, how do we support their adoption? So it is a collaborative effort, and here are 5 tips. So first, we ask the right questions. Second, highlight instructor faculty benefits. Third, highlight student benefits. Those can overlap, but also are different. 4, address common concerns. And 5, provide ongoing support. So these aren't in a specific order necessarily. They're tips, not a sequence of steps, because the process is different for everyone based on their needs, experience, etc. And we might skip some points or include others, but these are just 5 basic steps that, or tips, I should say, that should help others get interested in OER and starting to use some in their courses. So tip number 1, how do you start the conversation? Ask the right questions. So here I'm going to start with sharing ideas with everyone in the session today. So if you guys can access this Padlet of shared tips, we're going to kind of refer to this throughout the session, and I'm going to put it in the chat too, so you can access it there. So I'm going to try to show this Padlet also and not kind of go over that QR code there, if that's your preferred method of accessing it. So in this Padlet, we can see 4 columns. The first one says, what are the first questions you ask to start a conversation about incorporating OER into a course? So let's start there. What questions do you ask faculty, or do you ask yourself when selecting course materials or when selecting OER? So what are those first questions, just to get the conversation going? If anyone has access issues to this Padlet, please let me know. I have access, says Charlotte. Thank you. Hopefully everyone else does too. So there are 3 other columns. So I think we have 4 columns total in this Padlet. The second one is how can the use of OER benefit the instructor? We'll touch on that next. So that was tip number 2, I believe. And then tip number 3, what are common barriers? And someone already wrote here, time commitment. Awesome. Just throw out any ideas in any column that come to you right now. Feel free to just throw out any ideas. What solutions, resources, or strategies can overcome those barriers? So those are the 4 points that hopefully we can get a lot of shared ideas on in here today. And I will go through kind of each section, you know, throughout the session, throughout our time together here today. So I'll start with this one first, and then after further discussing it or giving a couple other ideas, moving on to the second one. So what are the first questions? Someone says, do you know what OER stands for? Good question. They might have like heard that word thrown out or that acronym thrown out, but not really know what it's in relation to. Have you ever tried to locate them? What content are you sharing currently? This is a good question. So get to know what people are working with now. Maybe they're using some open resources and don't even know it or don't realize. What are your students struggling with? That's a fantastic opportunity to get to know how OER can specifically address the barriers that your students are seeing. And if your students are seeing struggles anyway, you might need materials to address that, right? So how OER might fill that gap. What would you like students to have access to on day 1? Perfect question. We'll get to that too, of how, you know, OER is super accessible. Definitions, have you heard of? What is the cost of your course textbook? Really great point there too, right? A lot of times when we think about OER, we think about cost as a big help to OERs in courses. So I'm going to go through, you guys can keep that up on another screen if you're lucky enough to have multiple screens. We'll come back to that Padlet in a little bit. So a couple other questions. What challenges? Someone asked that. What teaching strategies do you use? That might be something that you could ask. What are your main learning objectives? So, hey, let's make sure that we are talking about OER in relation to the goals of the actual course and not using it just to use it, right? Are there any course topics for which you wish you had better or more up-to-date resources that might connect to some of the questions that people put in that Padlet too? Do you supplement your textbook with additional materials? So we might not use the textbook, right? We might use some other type of supplementary material that could be openly licensed. So another question, you guys can continue kind of adding to that list in the Padlet if you would like. I will definitely review all of the notes that you guys make in there later if I don't have time to kind of go through all of them at this point, but I would like to have it as a shared resource to kind of refer back to in the future. So another question that you might ask is, what types of materials are you looking for? So there are a lot of different types of materials that can be open, right? So we might be referring to a textbook, but we might not be. It's more than just textbooks, right? So of course there are textbooks where we can read it online or we can download and actually print physical copies if we wanted to. We could use multimedia. So here is a podcast that students made actually that's open for use that I could freely distribute without worry. We might use video or simulation tools. We might use courseware and modules. So here I see a module that has objectives, session activity, video recordings, slides, etc. So this is like a ready-made chunk of instructional material for you. We might use assessment or rubric. So here we see Canvas Commons where I'm actually searching I filter for assessment in my, subject area, and then I'm getting a list of items that were created from folks at my institution for my student body. So that might be more relevant to me. We might also just use openly licensed images by doing an advanced Google image search, filtering for Creative Commons license. So there's a lot of different types of materials. It's not just textbooks, right? Although we might think of that first. And then, how might we incorporate this OER into your online course? So folks might need some examples if they're really unfamiliar, like how can they actually fit some of these open practices into their courses? So I'm going to show you some examples here. I'm going to walk through some online courses in an LMS. So here we have a content page that, you know, obviously would be instructor created with a link to a Pressbooks chapter inserted into this module content page in your online course. So we have the attribution here for the OER textbook, and then a link to a chapter. So we might link to multiple chapters in this Pressbook throughout the course, or only use just this chapter, link it one time, and that's the only use of that OER. We see in this textbook, we have images, comprehension questions for, you know, to enhance student engagement. Obviously, there's text there. So there are multimedia components in a textbook, can be anyway. OER might look like a YouTube video embedded on a page, or a video from another source. So again, we have the attribution here. It's embedded right on the page, kind of contextualized by the content that the instructor is creating on this page. You might also just use images in content pages like we have here from Creative Commons licensed sources like Flickr or Unsplash. So I have freedom in how I distribute them. OER might also look like embedded practice activities. So here we can see a Quizlet that was embedded into the content page of the online course. And Quizlet is just a repository of flashcards, test, learn, match. So you compile one list of concepts, and it comes out with all of these different activities. And I can just straight adopt this and embed it as is, or I can edit it if I want to. So I do have freedom in how I use that. So just a supplemental practice activity. Another way that you might incorporate OER is by having students create content. So we might have student created content like collaborative Google Docs or Google Sites or slides. So students are creating, you know, and sharing with each other in the course community. They might create quiz questions or rubrics even, or instructional resources that they can kind of all be housed in the LMS, or however you're distributing content with your students, for them to openly share with each other. We might also have student created content with something like Teach with Wikipedia, where students are reviewing and analyzing Wikipedia entries and making corrections, adding proper citations. Students can also openly share with the larger community, not just with the course. So now we have illustrated the defining features of OER and how to incorporate them into courses. We've asked all the right questions, right, to get the conversation started, but we might still need some other steps to encourage educators to use OER. So tip number 2, what's in it for me, highlights the faculty or educator benefits. So how might the use of OER benefit the instructor? When discussing OER, which benefits are most important to highlight? Again, I'm going to go back to my Padlet here and allow folks to share how can OER benefit the instructor? So someone said cost to students. That's definitely a student benefit, right? What about specifically for the instructor? Someone said you can make the content your own, change it up. Perfect. Yes, we get some freedom. Customizable, enhances your course content. Day 0 access for sure. OER is content you can keep as a reference, in contrast with digital rentals, which disappear. So yes, the infinite access, right, perhaps could be good for both the faculty and the student. And we have an idea here of more flexibility and control over course content. So the flexibility, customization, freedom that you have with OER is definitely all great benefits that the facilitator of the course, the educator, will actually see. And I'm sure that you all have had your own personal experiences of, you know, benefiting from the OER, use of OER as an instructor or as an instructional designer even. So I too have had a lot of beneficial experiences with OER, and I will share one with you guys just to kind of share my own personal experience of A few years ago, I was teaching at a university in Thailand, and we didn't use books because of cost and access, and there wasn't as great of internet reliability and copyright issues. So I collaborated with a colleague to write an academic writing skills book. We actually created textbooks for our program every summer, and we wrote it for our exact student audience. So we could include photos from the campus and the city, and include, local issues that really connected with their experience. And then after I left that institution, the next instructor revised it and updated it, and student samples were added to it. And I would like to see in the future then students editing and revising that book themselves, so that we could have a student and instructor co-created resource that can be repurposed and reused for another course or another institution. So that's a lot of freedom in the content you teach with. But if I didn't have time to write that book, I might just edit one. So here we can see a Pressbooks. So you might use a tool like this, where you find a textbook online and make edits, right? So I can use something like Pressbooks to add new chapters or delete chapters or make minor tweaks even. So I took this academic writing skills book and said, hey, I want to throw a photo in there. Boom, there's my photo. I want to change this wording a little bit. I changed the wording like immediately. And then I can, update that version to share online or have people download, print, make copies, and I can freely distribute it with no copyright worries. So the educator benefits that I'll point out are some of which we saw in that Padlet of customizable content, academic freedom. Here's just an interesting point I came across about academic freedom. So 33% of faculty could not adopt the textbook of their choice without bundled material, or were unaware of it, that you could unbundle the material. So publishers often market these bundles of books and course materials that cannot be bought separately. Yet only 50% of instructors indicated that they used the extra materials. So that's not freedom, right? But if you use an openly licensed material, you can choose to use or not use its supplemental materials, or create your own or edit the textbook immediately rather than waiting for a new edition. You can add diverse perspectives, make sure it's fully aligned with your learning outcomes. So you control the design and the pedagogy. Other instructor benefits are collaborating with colleagues. So like I did on writing textbooks, even if you're not writing an OER textbook, you can collaborate with colleagues to find OER, right? That's going to build your professional skills and relationships. Finding OER together, or just spreading the word to colleagues after you found your own OER that works great for you and your students. It may also even build some of your tech skills, right? Because you might be learning tools to find, adapt, create OER, and the digital methods of distributing them. And there are a lot of tech tools online for students to create openly. So you might explore cool tech tools and learn new methods that way too, for student-generated content. And that brings me to this final point of experimenting with student-centered teaching. So one thing you might do is use student-generated content as an open resource. And this could mean that you don't have to create as much. So imagine having students write quiz questions and saying, hey, can I share these with my future classes? It's open to other students. And imagine students creating materials outside of the classroom for a larger audience, like the entire university or beyond. So maybe they write an article and try to get it published in the university or local newspaper, or create a podcast or video about it and publish it on an open platform. Or they're creating a social media campaign to persuade or inform about course topics or course concepts. So when you're experimenting with different types of assignments and opening them up to a larger audience, you can be very creative and innovative, and it can bring the course concepts to life and connect to students' real world use of the course concepts. And that can be very engaging for students to see their work be impactful in the real world. So that's a blend of the benefits to both faculty and instructors. So what about the students more? So let's talk a little bit about more student benefits. So this would be tip number 3, to supporting more OER adoption, is to highlight the student benefits. So the cost someone mentioned, and that is definitely a big benefit that we talk about a lot, but it's not the only one. So we will see a couple others, but we will start with cost. So let's see how discussing cost savings might influence folks to start using OER. So I'm going to share some cost data with you, which is coming from this article, Average Cost of College Textbooks from 2024. So let's do a little prices right here. So how much on average do you think one course textbook costs? If you want to throw them into the chat, I'm not noticing what else you guys are talking about in the chat, but I'm looking at it now. So if you want to throw out there, someone says $90, $175, $80, we're at least in double digits, right? $100. According to this article anyway, $174. So that's a lot of money. Imagine students are taking 4 classes, 3 semesters. That adds up compared to free if you're using OER. And think about what you can buy with that $174. That could be for one person a week or even more of groceries or money toward transportation or housing, you know, the basic needs. Next quiz question for you guys. What % of students don't buy textbooks due to high costs? What % do you think this might be of students who don't buy course textbooks? We have 40%, we have a 76, 67, 65, 80. So you guys are thinking the majority. So you're assuming the majority of students aren't buying a course textbook. We have a couple people in the minority under 50%. So our data says 65%. That's a lot, right? And maybe they're not buying, but are renting or borrowing. But that's limited access, right? So imagine you had an open free OER textbook that students could keep forever for infinite access. That is better. And this leads to the next question of what % of students fail courses due to cost of course materials. So maybe they didn't purchase that textbook or something. So what % of students do you think might fail a course? Someone says 30%, 63. So we have some big guesses here, right? So it seems like we're already aware of like the impact of cost, and that OER might reduce some of those challenging impacts. So the number from our data today says 20%. So that is a lot, and that is really limiting the success of our students. So if you don't have that $174, but you attend class, maybe you can't do the assignments with no textbook and you fail, not because of comprehension, but because you didn't really get a chance to learn the material. So my final question is what % of professors say textbooks and course materials cost their students too much? So we have the data on costs from the students. What about the professors? Someone says 100% of professors, right? So we think that this is a well-known problem. Someone else said 79. There are, again, some high numbers being thrown out there. So I'll share with you the data here. 82%. So that means the vast majority acknowledge that this problem of cost exists, right? Yet only 26% are using OER, as we saw earlier. So we need to fill that gap. We can get folks aware and support them in how they incorporate, because they may be aware of OER, but very unaware of how to actually find them and incorporate them into what they already have going in their course. And we can think about how else might students be affected by expensive course materials. I'll just go ahead and share this with you. 25% of students reported they worked extra hours to pay for their books. 11% skipped meals in order to afford books and course materials. So that's important. Do you really want to know that a student in your course or at your institution did not eat because of a course they're taking? We want to help our students progress and move up and build their skills and confidence and knowledge, not give them setbacks, not give them more challenge. So these are really important to think about, the cost savings. This is very impactful on people's lives. And there are other really impactful student benefits. So that's just the cost. That is a huge impact. But let's check out a couple other ones. So moving on, my slide is sticking, but it will go. Okay. So here's just a couple other student benefits: engagement and interest. So this applies UDL principles by recruiting interest. So the flexibility you have in the OER you select or adapt for your course also allows you to make the content relevant, valuable, authentic. More than a textbook for a mass audience, you can adapt an openly licensed textbook to focus on local issues, like revising case studies in a book by using local cases, or download a quiz from Canvas Commons that was created by a colleague and addresses the needs of your student population. So this increases the relevancy and course concepts to your students. And materials that are culturally relevant or speak to the local context help make concepts more familiar to your students, which enhances comprehension and is inclusive. And people take in information more quickly when it aligns with their personal experience. So OER can be more accessible in that way. And because you are the one creating or editing or adopting the resource, so you know what content addresses your actual students and what meets their needs, while a publisher doesn't have that. So their materials are not going to be as perfectly connected to your student audience as you might be able to get with an OER. Transferable skills, this is also a student benefit. So we can help students build professional skills. So some examples of open practices that I've seen include students in a science course creating a website on science topics that they have deemed important to society, or students in a public health science course creating a weight loss or weight-related challenges guide for the general public in Pressbooks. Community service projects like updating or improving a local library or a local business's website, or students in a finance or business course teaching financial literacy and tax strategies through a session or a brochure at a local community center. So these types of open, renewable assignments, open to the larger community, it's putting students' learned skills to practical use. And of course, that's going to get students motivated to contribute and succeed in the course. So throughout those types of assignments, students are building research skills, communication skills, problem-solving skills. So that can be a huge benefit to students. And finally, the third point you see on here is accessibility. So as mentioned in the Padlet, there's no waiting for it to ship. It's available on day one. And OER meets accessibility in other ways. So we will explore that a little bit more in the upcoming slides, because accessibility is a huge concern with online courses. So how else might OER help us with accessibility? Well, we can convert it to multiple formats, so we can make sure that the PDF or HTML are screen reader friendly for visually impaired students. We can convert to audio using text-to-speech, or use AI to do this, like Notebook LM, to put in a text version and get out an audio output. You can make materials more digitally accessible through editing format, like adding headings or description, image description, or alt text, or use of color, adding transcriptions, captions, that type of thing. Those are things you can edit in an openly licensed material, or certainly apply to OER that you yourself are creating. And then finally, the final point here is that many OER authors follow UDL and web content accessibility guidelines. But if not, hopefully you can revise or edit. So I may have mentioned a few features of OER that you see in this list already, but I think it's important to see how these features actually benefit in multiple ways and actually benefit multiple aspects of your course. So for example, the ability to simplify or translate to another language increases student success, motivation, engagement, and makes the material accessible to a more diverse audience. We can make materials more accessible by adding scaffolding to address various proficiency levels, like adding glossaries, study guides, videos, practice activities, infographics. We've already mentioned how you can select or create or edit OER for cultural relevancy and addressing local contexts. And so OER can be more accessible in that way. It's also accessible to students in that they can be downloaded and used offline, which is helpful for students in rural areas with no or slow internet access, which is still an issue. So a couple more points of data for student success for those who like like some more numbers. According to the Florida Virtual Campus, 24% of students drop a course due to high textbook costs. Meanwhile, there's a 29% lower withdrawal rate in courses with OER. So the drop fail withdrawal rate is significantly declining among underserved populations in courses with OER. So that's showing real impact there. Also 53%, there's a 53% increase in grade of part-time students, at least at the University of Georgia, increase in A's and B's, OER decreasing stress of affordability and timely access, especially for the overburdened student population. So these all sound like convincing points to bring people at your institution, right, to start the conversation about incorporating OER. But yes, that sounds great, but people will still have concerns, right? So tip number 4, address these concerns. Talk to the problems or issues they're encountering or even think might exist. So what are the barriers to adopting OER? I did have this as a Padlet column also, and so we'll just go through a couple of those. I'm going to keep that on the screen, and in case anyone missed it, I'm gonna just go ahead and put it into the chat again, the Padlet link. So the first one I see here is time commitment. Certainly, it can be time consuming to create and just to find materials. Copyright concerns, quality of OER or finding the right OER, not able to find really good sources, outdated materials. I'm very used to my textbook. That's so true, right? Sometimes we just keep using the same thing because we know it and it works for us. And hey, all my other materials connect to it too. Company gatekeepers of OERs to import into learning management systems. Right, time. Why should I contribute to an OER for a small stipend rather than work with a textbook company to get compensated appropriately for my time and knowledge? This is a good question, right? So think about, is this of value to you or not? That is a personal question that you might tackle, but hopefully we have some ideas going on about that. We have 5 minutes remaining, so I'll let you guys go through some of the other ideas that you guys put in there. Thank you for sharing, by the way. Before I asked you today, I asked Consensus AI to summarize the key obstacles of OER adoption. They are seen here. They are similar to some of the things that you guys put up, so I will skip on to the solutions. And let's see, oops, sorry, my Padlet is going all over the place. So I also asked you what solutions, resources, or strategies can overcome these barriers. And people say examples of OER. Yes, I agree. I like to see examples. That helps me understand how I can personally use it and how it might apply to me. Not too many quick sign-ons for students to access them. Right, it should be easy to access, not cumbersome or presenting another barrier or challenge. Starting small, perfect idea. Start with sharing within your department, open up later if you want. I like that idea too. I'll share just a couple others with you. As someone said, start small. Go to these repositories. They have ready-made resources, so you can simply adopt an existing OER without making any adaptations or anything. And then maybe in the future, you can adapt that book if it permits. Quality. So yeah, some people fear that they might not be as rigorous or accurate or, just as quality. But we can use rubrics I've linked here, and I'll give you guys the link to these slides at the end of the session. So OER can be high quality though, if we're searching for things like accuracy, clarity, accessibility, inclusivity, relevancy, alignment, make sure that they're aligned with our learning objectives. And all of these rubrics can kind of point us toward specific things that we want to keep in mind. So let's say we have found and evaluated and selected an OER. What's next? And after that, this is the ongoing support. So tip 5, we have to offer, ongoing support and resources. So there are a lot of resources out there. This slide has just a couple. The first one is an OER starter guide that a couple IDs here at UCF created. There's also this OER starter kit here. There's a million other resources like that online. We might want to point folks to learning more about Creative Commons licenses, and of course, ask your librarian or OER support team. Another great tactic is to share faculty success stories. So peers learning from peers, right? So those are people that you can definitely get into contact with. So again, we have our 5 tips for supporting OER. Ask the right questions, highlight instructors' student benefits, address concerns, and provide ongoing support. I have 1 minute. I do see that there's a lot of chat going on there, so I'm sorry that I missed a lot of that, but I will go back and read it. And if anyone wants to reach out, please feel free. I will put the link to these slides in the chat.
You so very much, Emily. We really appreciate your time and hanging in there with us for our last session of the day. Wonderful resources, wonderful contributions from the other participants in the chat. So we thank you all so much for being at this OER special session. Just as a reminder, this is the end of day 2. You can go ahead and complete the survey if you wish. If you'd like, you can also wait until tomorrow, end of day, and give us the survey feedback for all 3 days, but you can always go back in and enter it again for each day, whatever's easiest for you. We just appreciate your time and that feedback. We are opening tomorrow with a student panel, so super excited that we are going to have another panel, and especially that we're going to be soliciting student input and feedback as far as online teaching and learning. So exciting panel. We also had a student panel last year, which really had some great takeaways from their feedback and feelings and contributions. So we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to Top Kit Workshop 2025, and we will see you tomorrow at 1 o'clock as well. Thank you all so much.
Have a great day, everybody.